Let's talk about Tier 3 level support. At this level, you are providing intensive, individualized interventions to 1 to 5% of your students. At this point, you are developing individualized interventions for high-risk behaviors. This includes intensive behavior intervention plans, or BIP, or individualized education plans, like an IEP. The teacher is involved in specific long-term behavior goals and data tracking. The student is receiving individualized instruction away from the classroom and is participating in the small group instruction more frequently. If the student is in SPED, they might be placed in self-contained programming like Achieve, Goals, or Focus. With behavior, we address the urgent because in many ways it is a matter of safety and we have to respond immediately. A student throwing a chair requires immediate attention. A student eloping from the classroom requires immediate attention. Ultimately, though, the immediate reactions yield a temporary result. Round Rock ISD behavior coaches, whether they are Gen Ed behavior coaches like myself or SPED behavior coaches, provide CPI training to teachers that require it in the district. CPI stands for Crisis Prevention Institute. I've attended training from a handful of different crisis prevention and intervention programs over the past 14 years. But I can say that out of these programs, CPI has taught me the most effective and safe strategies, the ones that I use, sometimes on a daily basis. The main two reasons why educators attend our CPI trainings are because their CPI certification is about to expire and they need a new card, or because they were involved in a restraint and need to attend a CPI training within 30 days of the restraint. You may find yourself in one of those two scenarios, but if not, I recommend speaking with your administrator about getting trained in CPI or having one of the behavior coaches provide a training that references many of the CPI behavior de-escalation strategies. Your administrator can fill out our simple behavior professional development request form, and one of us 5 coaches can head over to your campus and train your entire team on these de-escalation strategies. Whether providing a CPI certification course or one of our de-escalation strategies trainings, we refer to CPI's crisis development model. Having an awareness of this model is the first step in preventing or reducing the amount of escalated behaviors you will see in your classroom. Let's talk about the crisis development model from CPI. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because whenever we teach CPI to a new class or we do a training on de-escalation strategies, we always bring up this development model. We do so because it offers a practical response to behaviors. It treats behaviors like a practical, tangible thing that you can work with. You know that when this student reaches this level, this is the proper response. So let's go level by level and talk about the appropriate staff responses to each level. For level 1, anxiety. When a student is experiencing anxiety, CPI says that it is any noticeable change in a student's behavior. So the student might be tapping their pencil on their desk, their face might get a little red, they might start breathing heavily, they might start talking quickly. At this point, we want to be supportive to that student. We want to find out what they need and get it to them. The way that we find out what they need is by asking them questions. How are you doing today? What's going on? Is there anything I can get you? For me, I'm a tall guy, and so I'm 6'2". I often work with pre-K age students and kindergarten age students. And so what I like to do is I like to get down on one knee and get next to them just to show that I'm on their level and see what I can do to help them. If they say that they need something like a drink or they need the answer to a question, we just provide that to them and move on. For level 2, this is when a student becomes defensive. Now, when a student becomes defensive, it might look like a few different things. They might start questioning things. Why do I have to learn this math? I'm never going to use this again in my life. They might start being disrespectful. They might start cursing at their teacher. At this point, we want to give the student a directive. We want to give them a very basic command with as few words as possible, telling them what our expectations are. Peter, I need you to work on problems 1 through 5. I'm going to come check up on you in 2 minutes. After you give that directive, you turn and you walk away. You give them time to process the directive that you gave them. not going to linger over the student because that could lead to a power struggle. And in the case of a power struggle, the teacher never wins. If you gave the student directives and they're not being compliant, this might eventually lead to risk behavior. Risk behavior is when the student releases their energy. Now, they might release their energy by throwing a chair. They might release their energy by eloping from the classroom. They might release their energy by screaming or hitting someone. At this point, this is when you want to use physical intervention. Now, the person in your room that is CPI certified should be the one physically intervening. And if you are not CPI certified, then you have to make sure that you know who is. Find out who on your campus is part of the crisis team, and then try to get CPI training as soon as you can. Tension reduction. At this level, this is after the student has let out that energy. They've become physically aggressive and they've gotten all this energy out, and now they are calming down. At this point, we want to offer them therapeutic rapport. We want to find out what it is that they need in this moment. Maybe they are exhausted from what just happened and they need to lie down, and we actually give them some covers. Maybe they need some water because they've been screaming for a while. We're going to give them what they need in the moment so that they can calm down. And when they are calm, we're going to check for compliance. We'll do a quick compliance check. And some point on later in the day, we're going to discuss with them what happened. But in that moment, we're not reminding them of what got them there in the first place. Now, you will see on the top of the crisis development model the words integrated experience. This is the idea that behavior influences behavior. How we behave as educators influences the behavior of our students. If we feel anxious as educators, our students will pick up our anxiety and might become anxious themselves. If we are frustrated with a student, even if we try to cover up that frustration with a smile, students can still sense it and react accordingly. When an instructional coach is observing a student in their classroom, they are also monitoring the teacher's interaction with the student and the students around them. They're taking notes like, did the teacher provide the students with a warm, personalized greeting when the students entered the classroom? Did the teacher provide sincere and enthusiastic feedback to the student about their ideas? Did the teacher provide frequent attention, praise, and encouragement to students that were engaged and following directions? If one of us behavior instructional coaches provides a teacher with one-on-one coaching, there is a self-reflection sheet that Amanda Horn, the McNeil Learning Community coach, created. A teacher can use this self-assessment and see if they're doing everything within their control to reduce the amount of anxiety that each of their students may experience. By the time that a student is receiving Tier 3 support, it is possible that they have received multiple referrals. They might eventually be placed at the elementary DAEP, where I am right now, or at the Round Rock Opportunity Center. The behavior instructional coaches check in with students while they are placed at either of the alternative campuses. Since the Gen Ed behavior coaches are located at the elementary DAEP, we interact with the students here on a daily basis. We are assigned to the students from our specific learning communities. For example, I'm responsible for the students from the Round Rock learning community. While the students are here, we track the progress they are making on their specific behavior goals. Students that are receiving Tier 3 support will have specific goals on their daily behavior report cards, or DBRCs. If a student does not have a specific DBRC when they're placed at the elementary DAP, as a staff, we will decide on their appropriate specialized goals. Currently, the Gen Ed behavior coaches also work with middle school students. We travel to the Rock on a weekly basis to check in with the students from our assigned middle schools. When a student transitions back to their home campus, whether it's from the Rock or from the elementary DAP, behavior coaches are part of the transition process. For both elementary and middle school students, if administration requests it, the behavior instructional coach can run a transition circle, inspired by restorative practices, to restore the relationship between the student and the teachers from their home campus. Behavior coaches are part of the planning process when a student transitions back from their home campus. We help determine what supports will be put in place to help the student be successful back at their home campus.